Hello, this is Pastor Weston Walker at Grace and Mercy Lutheran Church in Hermiston. Continuing the series on how I learned to pray. It's not really accurate though, because it's not like I learned and now I know. I'm still learning how to pray. And I was reminded by that just last night or this morning. I mentioned that one of the ways I learned to pray was, as many people learn to pray, when times are tough. And this is a tough time for many, and so it's always good to learn to pray, learn how to pray more genuinely, more deeply, but especially now is a good time. So if you're working on deepening your spiritual disciplines, I applaud you and I would love to walk with you. I also mentioned that being at the monastery was something that was formative to me in developing my prayer life. I was imitating others at the monastery. On one hand, that sounds bad. Just imitate someone else. How could that be genuine prayer? But that's how we as humans learn a lot of really important things. That's how children learn how to talk. That's how we learn a lot of things, is by imitating others. And we don't do it simply to imitate others, but in imitating others, we learn experientially ourselves. Another aspect that we'll deal with more in depth at a later time is that Jesus had a prayer book and used a prayer book. And that is the same prayer book that the early church used, and that's the book of Psalms. We'll talk more about that. This idea of the prayer books I mentioned last night, Book of Common Prayer and our Evangelical Lutheran Worship, how these are helpful guides in helping us learn to pray by using the prayers of others, particularly prayers that have been passed down through the centuries, because Christians of all ages have found them very significant. And so a couple of weeks ago at St. John's Episcopal in Hermiston, when we were still gathering for our Wednesday Lenten services together, I was not familiar with New Zealand's prayer book, but Father Chuck used the night prayer service out of the New Zealand prayer book for our service then. And in flipping through the pages, one prayer caught my eye. I don't think we prayed it together as a community that night, but it caught my eye and I took a picture of it, and I find it in a very appropriate prayer for this time in our lives and in our situation. So it's an example of still learning by seeing the prayer of someone else's and learning how I can incorporate that into my own prayer life, how it reflects my own concerns and desires that I have, but gives me language that I have not yet put my finger on. And so I leave this prayer with us for today from New Zealand's prayer book of night prayer. Be present, Spirit of God, within us, your dwelling place and home, that this house may be one where all darkness is penetrated by your light, all troubles calmed by your peace, all evil redeemed by your love, all pain transformed in your suffering, and all dying glorified in your risen life. Amen.